We will call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Sure. Mrs. Petropoulos absent. Mrs. Lebudzic,
Here.
Mrs. Lammle,
Here.
Mrs. Grove,
Here.
Mrs. Birkin absent, Mrs. Schroeder absent, Mr. Medina.
Okay, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, introduction of guests.
Yes, right now we have the entire admin team here, minus Mr. Youngberg, who is in charge of the conference all-star game for volleyball. So he's, I believe, in Oak Forest right now running that. So,
Okay, 2.0, approval of the consent agenda for minutes of the September 12th, 2023 meeting. Open session, minutes of the September 12th closed session, minutes of the 18th special meeting, open session, minutes of the September 18th study session. Can I have
I'll make a motion.
a motion? A second.
Mrs. Lebudzic,
Aye.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle
Aye.
and Mrs. Birkin.
Aye. 3.0 superintendent report.
Well, good night or good evening, everyone.
Good night.
I'm ready to go. Ready to go. Just have a few things I want to go through tonight. I still do not have any updates on the PTA. They're still working on getting things together. Mrs. Willer, who is the president of the PTA, is really working hard on really getting people together, but we also want to make sure that she's ready to go when we do launch it. So it's just as fun for our kids and our families as it has been in the past. So hopefully I'll have some information even before the next official meeting in November. So I will share that out if I do have any. 3.2, our enrollment report. We actually have seen an increase of 28 students from last month, which sounds like we've had a lot of people move in, but that's not necessarily the case. If you remember, we opened up another pre-K classroom over at Ridge Lawn, and that did not open in time for our last enrollment report. So 23, I believe, of those 28 students are from that class, but that brings our enrollment up to 1,449 students, which is still 16 less than last year. So just things we are constantly looking at. Our school departments and reports, you can tell we are definitely in full swing, fun times and just education taking place every day. We had, first of all, our girls volleyball team. They won the regular season conference by going undefeated. They did take second place they lost to Independence. It always seems like it's those two, but a great season. I would like to invite them. They were the conference champions for the regular season. I'd like to invite the team and Mrs. Bonk, the coach, to the next meeting in November to recognize them. We also, if you look, our after school clubs have really taken off. Two, I'd like to highlight just because walking through the hallways, kids just look so excited. We have a cooking class after school, and what they bring out, I don't make them give me food, but it looks really good and I want to take it from them. And then also the chess club. We had the chess guy walking through and like we were trying to get him in the right spot the first day. And I see this line of like 20 some kids across. They're like, "Are you the chess guy?" Like they were so excited for that. And I'm very chess wizard. That's good to know. But I am very jealous because I've always wanted to learn how to play chess. I just don't think I should be going there during school hours to do that. So I'm hoping one of the kids will teach me when they are done. And then of course we have Mr. Girk running after school clubs, which always sells out before anything else. So it's just been really nice to see those things get off and running. And then I do want to point out just there's a nice picture of Detective Sloan in there with our junior high kids, talking to them about bullying and cyberbullying. And so he's been trying to get around to the different classrooms, just talking about being safe and being smart with all of that. Under our vacant positions and possible staffing needs, still kind of looking at the same things we have been for a while. Special ed at the junior high is still our one we're struggling with. We do have a full-time contractual person in one of the positions right now. And then you'll see later in the meeting, we have someone else who's able to work part-time. We're looking to either fill those other part-times, or if we can ever find a full-time position, those are things that we are looking at. I know Carrie continues to look out for that as much as possible. I did 3.5. I did go down to the superintendent's conference in Springfield, and I will say since my first year, I would say this was my favorite one because a lot of times they'll focus on motivation and just getting you ready for the rest of the year in terms of mental health. But this one really focused on just the job of a superintendent, and it was superintendents from around the state who would come and talk, or from other states who would come and talk to us. So just got a lot of really, really good things, whether it was on learning loss, just some financial stuff that superintendents should be looking out for, along with their CSBO. So I just appreciate the board always being willing to send me to those. It is definitely worthwhile while I'm down there. I do learn a lot. And I will say it's not the worst thing in the world to actually get sleep for a few nights away from the house with many kids. So that's okay as well. We also have our III conference coming up in November. I sent an email out last week listing a whole bunch of different times and things that we can go to. I will be hopefully sending out shortly some kind of like a sign-up sheet if it's something you were interested in, or if I didn't list it and you're like, I really want to learn more about this, or I feel I need to know this to be a better board member. By all means, just say this is the one I want to go to, because it's really about getting the knowledge as a whole board that we can then bring back. And I talked to Mrs. Petropoulos, who is right now at her parent-teacher conferences, but will be joining us shortly. And we had started this last year, but we want to make sure that we continue it. And that is kind of having a Google sheet where people can fill in what they learn. So then we can share that out as a group, because it's some of the best professional development in the state when we go this weekend. And there's just so much, you can't cover it all, but we want to make sure we can get as broad of a net as possible and then bring it back. And I would even say when we are signing up for them, like there are some that maybe one person can go to, like we'll send Kathy to all of her fun business stuff and keep her over there. But there's other things where it's beneficial to have 2 or 3 people if it's something we really want to know about, because everyone gets something different from those. So we'll just kind of look through that over the next month to make sure that we can get everything covered. And then also, I know Lori attached a link to the resolutions committee report. That's what Chrissy will be going for the delegates to talk about. So if you have any questions on that, please let her. I know if she can't make it, then Joy is the one who will be stepping up and attending. And then any other information we get, we'll get to you over the next month. So especially those of you who are new, please don't hesitate to ask questions. I would say Lori's probably the better one to ask questions. She is an expert at this weekend. So feel free to reach out to her with any questions. All right. My only other is a good other. October is Principal Appreciation Month. So I just wanted to let our principals know, especially since Jeff's not here, we'll tell them how much we appreciate them. So just thank you guys for everything that you do and continue to do for our kids and our families. So we do appreciate it. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Nothnagel.
Sure, yeah, so 4.1 is so in September, the fall, our students in kindergarten through 8th grade took the reading and math NWEA growth assessments. They take that 3 times a year as a benchmark. And they also, kindergarten through 5th grade, also took the math fluency assessment. So each of the building administrators have had a chance to host, we call them data days or data meetings, where they review the data collected from the fall benchmark as grade level teams or team leaders, and they discuss that data. They discuss goals and intentions for instruction based on that information. And so I know that that's something that we did a while ago. We got back to this year because we were able to have enough subs. So it was a really successful day based on the feedback that we got from the administrators. In your packet, you will also see the math and English language arts, the reading NWEA fall growth, student growth summaries. So that's based from fall 2022 to fall 2023. There's a page for math and then there's a page for ELA. The blue bar, if you remember, we did go over this last year, but if you see the visual in front of you, the blue bar is the growth that the students actually had. The yellow diamond or the gold diamond or the diamond, it might not be a color copy, but that diamond itself shows the projected growth that the students should have had. So sometimes that bar meets that growth target, sometimes it surpasses it, and sometimes that bar falls short. So it's important to know that specifically for ELA, we'll be continuing the path that we plan to have where we are looking and adopting an ELA resource. And that committee is meeting regularly now and reviewing different resources and learning about what's best for ELA instruction in the current years. And then for math, we have obviously implemented at the elementary a new resource last year. So it is, if you're familiar with education and the implementation of a resource, the beginning of it is a little bit slower for implementation because teachers are getting used to that resource, as are the students. And this resource itself really focuses on student discourse, so conversations and math communities amongst the students. So there was a lot of work at the beginning of the school year with that different teaching routine and working with building the teacher's capacity to lead those conversations from a kind of facilitator standpoint instead of leading from the front of the classroom. So with that being said, anytime you implement a resource, you don't often see the growth that that resource will eventually present. It usually takes about 3 years because we know that within year one, they don't get to all of the units of study, and they didn't last year because of that. So over the summer, I had worked on pacing guides for each of the grade levels, and that should also be at your place. It looks similar to this. And one of them has been created for all grades K-8. And what this does is it actually outlines when the teacher should be starting each unit and when they should be assessing each unit for the start of the next unit. It specifies what standards are being taught in that unit, the goals and the objectives, so that as they're the admin, the actual building administrators are working with grade level teams and the math coaches that are going into these team meetings or working with the teams, they can ensure that the pacing is getting closer to being on target this year, and then of course absolutely on pace for next year, so that those units of study and the standards are all being covered in that one year from start to finish. And this I know has been shared with the elementary teams at their data meetings, and then at the elementary has been shared through the coaches and through the administrators and myself with those 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers at Findlay Junior High. Obviously, with the implementation of this resource, we're also focusing for math on common assessments, as well as just that math coaching. And we are implementing this year that all year 1 and year 2 teachers new to the district are going through a full coaching cycle with our math coaches, both at the elementary and the junior high. So this is really the result of implementing a new resource that in year 1 and 2 of the ELA resource, we'll also be looking to do very similar implementation where we're supporting the teachers, not just with that global professional development, but then throughout and in the actual classrooms and actually the teaching and learning environments, rather than just someone from the outside resource coming in and telling us how we can implement that individual resource. And also the district math leadership team, also abbreviated as DMLT, they're actually going to be presenting, it's teachers, actual kindergarten through 8th grade teachers that are part of this committee. They're going to actually present to all of our staff math teachers, elementary K-5, and then 6, 7, and 8 math teachers at the 2 early dismissal, 1 in October and 1 in February. They're going to take the learning that they've done over the last several years as a DMLT and now share this information out with the teachers as a whole. And it's really not tied to illustrative math. It's more about the best teaching practices that are the current research-based approaches for the best student math learning and creating best math environments. So high quality tasks and intentional planning will be the 2 focuses of those presentations on those early consultants. Any questions?
I have a couple. When do you think we're gonna see the effects of COVID not be the excuse anymore? Like at what grade level do you think we're going to be able to not blame it? I don't mind blaming it.
No, I don't know that I have.
Better to
the
blame
answers to that.
anything but us.
Yeah, and one of the things that I went to down in the conference was from Renaissance Learning, and they showed they showed a bunch of different graphs, which I drew for Megan, which looks like a kindergartner drew them. I'm not a
At
troll.
least you tried.
Yes, it did. But you obviously have your growth, which you expect to just kind of go up the same every year. And it showed what most people expected to happen during COVID. You'd have like a V effect. You drop down, you go right back up and keep going. They said what many have seen is that it dropped and then would slowly like get closer, but hasn't reached it. And they said what the majority in like our area in South Cook have seen is it dropped and it's now increasing at the same rate, but it's not as high. So you haven't caught up yet. And they predicted it could take 5 to 7 years, which is just astonishing to me. And they didn't have like an answer of here is what you should do, but it was really interesting seeing those 3 depictions of what has happened.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that Dr. Thorns and I had spoken about after he came back from that presentation was the need to continue to accelerate students and not continue to remediate. If we spend all of our time on remediating and filling gaps, the students are not getting that grade level content, that high rigor, that expectation of grade level standards. So when talking with some other outside resources and companies and people, we have to continue to teach those standards while still, and that's where that small group instruction can be very helpful, kind of isolating through what I need time or specific to that gap, but still focusing the greater amount on the actual grade level content so that we can continue to accelerate kids instead of remediate. It doesn't provide them that opportunity. So we want to be able to do that for them. And I don't use that as an excuse. So my answer is no. Other questions?
It's more of a comment. I just wanna applaud the staff and admin, the RIT scores between the 2 years. I mean, every single one of them has increased and that's so beautiful. It's beautiful. So high five to you guys.
Anyone else? 4.2 after school academics and activities. Dr. Thorns had celebrated based on those building share outs, some of the great things that are happening in the schools. We do have 243, that's 243 kindergarten through 5th grade students participating in after school academics. This year we've added some fine motor and some let's play social kind of interaction type groups that can help increase things that students, especially in those younger K2 groups, have missed over the years. And then for activities, kindergarten through 8, we have 392 students participating in activities after school. Some new additions, like Dr. Thorns had said, is Chess Wizards, but also the junior high has cross country as an after school club, and they are actually participating in that club Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays after school. And there is a lot of participation and a lot of interest. They run around the building, the campus here at the junior high. So that's exciting to see. They also have drawing club this year. So just meeting some of those different variety of needs or likes or wants, if you will. And then we also have soccer, which is new, ABC 1, 2, 3. As I had mentioned, fine motor, Dr. Thorns had mentioned Little Chefs, and then music club. So really exciting activities that the kids can participate in. It's a little bit of time after school, but it gets them that social, that interaction with their peers in that type of setting.
And we talk all the time about our attendance rate and how those have gone down, and all the research and just being in education, if a kid is hooked on something, they're going to be at school on those days. There's that extra thing for them to do other than just show up from 8, 10 to 3 o'clock. And that's why we want to keep offering more and more of these to entice them to just love school that much more. So.
And I do not, oh, yes.
You want to say something about the after school?
Mhm.
Is there like snack time or anything? Because I know it's kind of a long day for some of these kids. Did you ask them to bring a snack?
Yeah.
They have time to eat. I was sent it with Joey, but I don't.
Yeah, and they should have time when it first starts, or a lot of times they're kind of in the hallway waiting for it to start. They have 15 minutes. Okay, yeah, no, it is a long day for sure.
Yeah.
And then we also usually have a sharing table with stuff. If like kids absolutely like forgot something, they'd be able to get some of that as well. So, yeah, good question.
I don't have another.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna turn it over to Kathy.
Okay, thank you. 5.1 is our list of contracts over $25,000 per Illinois school code. By December 1st, we need to post that on the website. So that is just a list of vendors over 25,000 from last school year. And then 5.2 is our American Rescue Plan. We know it as ESSER 3. ESSER 3, when it was awarded 2 years ago, was about $6.1 million. And we knew that it was going to expire at the end of last year, but we also knew that it would be rolled over. So right now we are looking at an additional, not an additional, the remaining balance of that grant is roughly $2 million. And so in your board packet, you will see line by line what we submitted to ISB, and that is currently under review. And if you remember, this is the one grant that did have stipulations on how we could spend that money. There was a learning loss component, there was a summer school component, and there was an after school component. So we had to submit what we spent last year in those categories. So we are committed to specific spendings. So just to kind of summarize, $695,000 is for salaries and benefits. We have $127,000 budgeted for 2 contractual teachers, and then $782,000, a huge amount of money for supplies and curriculum resources. We have our ELA curriculum, and a lot of what Megan was just talking about is built in there. So that's a great opportunity to use those funds. And then our replacement cycle for our Chromebooks. Normally, we've been putting it into Title I, but in Title I, our paraprofessional expenses are really climbing. So we weren't able to put that in Title I. So we at least were able to put it in here for 1 more year to be funded. And then we do just have a placeholder of about $220,000 for any leftover expense for our renovation projects. And that's all I have. Any questions on that?
Kathy, for the study session, in 2 weeks, we're expecting to have Corey from Studio GC come out.
Yes,
And he's gonna discuss our facilities plan, and that's what we're gonna be looking at.
correct. Yes. Mhm.
So that's what we have to look forward to in 2 weeks, and that's that plan that some things go out even like 50 years.
6.0 old business,
Mm-mm.
7.0 new business.
Mhm.
7.1 potential board action to approve payment to Studio GC in the amount of $47,206.84 for architectural fees related to window and door replacement, mechanical unit replacement, and building additions and renovations. Can I have a motion?
I would like to make the motion, but the doors are working properly now, correct? Locks, so we're not having issues with doors locking?
This is the one that's not Red Feather, correct?
Yes, correct. And
Mhm.
this would be the architect fees.
Okay.
If we would ever hold anything back, it would be directly from the contractor.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Lamb,
Aye.
Mrs. Bergen,
Aye.
Mrs. Levazik,
Aye.
Mrs. Grove,
Aye.
Mr. Medina,
Aye.
and Mrs. Schroeder.
7.2 potential board action to accept the 23-24 American Rescue Plan ESSER 3 grant as submitted. Can I have a motion?
Mrs. Bergen,
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mrs. Lamb,
Aye.
Mrs. Levazik,
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Any others?
Nope,
Meeting reports.
nothing,
Informational,
nope.
opportunities for visitors to speak.
Okay, president's prerogative. Well, I don't want to take anything away from Chrissy, but she's not here, so happy Principal Month to all of our very hardworking administrators. We appreciate you. And then, 12.0 adjourn to closed session.
Yes, we're looking to adjourn to closed session for the discussion of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body to determine its validity as defined in the Open Meetings Act, Section 2C1, the discussion of collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or the representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees as described in Section 2C2, the discussion of security measures and the use of personal and equipment to respond to an actual, a threatened, or a reasonably potential danger to the safety of employees, students, the staff, the public, or public property as defined in Section 2C8, and the discussion of prior meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act as defined in Section 2C21 for the purpose of review, approval, or release of such minutes. We're looking for a motion. Oh, and we are not going to discuss student discipline or imminent litigation.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the second. Is it Mrs. Bacon? Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mrs. Bergen.
Aye.
Mrs. Levacy.
Aye.
And Mrs. Lamb.
Great.
You asked me twice.
I did ask you twice. Mrs. Grove. Aye.